Made with Spoken. Unseen, a Fader's Prequel by E.G. Bateman. Digital narration performed by multiple digital voices. Trigger warning. This story takes place during a school shooting at a military academy for monster hunters. Unseen by E.G. Bateman. Chapter 1. Washington State, 1970s.
I sat squashed up next to the hairy brute with his arm around me in the cabin of the pickup truck as it wound its way through the quiet roads between Vancouver and the isolated neighborhood of Ireland, north of Camas, Washington State.
You girls sure live a long way out.
The brute played with my hair, wrapped it around his fingers, and sniffed at it.
I hope you're going to return the favor when we get there.
His breath stank of whiskey and cigarettes. In fact, his whole body had a pungent, unwholesome aroma to it. Alice had the right idea, sitting next to the driver, who had to keep at least one hand on the wheel. Alice and I shared a glance as we smiled and giggled. I knew from her eyes she was thinking the same thing. Hitching a lift from these guys had not been a good idea.
We live at a boarding school, the boys too. We go to the same school.
Alice twisted to look through the back window at the two boys holding on for dear life on the back of the truck. Thug number 2 moved his arm to stop her from checking on the boys, but we both saw the rifle on the gun rack behind us. We should have waited for the bus.
I can't believe I was so near to the lead singer. They were great seats. He's amazing,
said Alice, returning to her vacuous persona to placate the creeps. It had seemed like a simple plan. Sneak out. Get the bus to Portland. Watch the concert. Get the bus back. Sneak back in, then wake up in the morning for the last day of the semester and get the bus home for the summer. What could possibly go wrong?
Hey, Brad,
said the driver.
I'm sure these ladies would like some candy. See what we've got.
Brad rustled around in the shelf, pulling out a folded map and empty burger wrappers.
No candy, but I did find this.
Brad waved a handgun around. I froze. I knew how to defend myself. At the academy, we all did. But this situation was not one that came up in class. Being so close to these big, muscle-bound creeps, I didn't have the first clue how to handle myself. The academy wasn't just a school. It was a military-run program for kids with a special ability. We were training to fight in a war these thugs would probably never even know about. Unless they killed us first.
Hey,
said the driver. I thought he was going to ask Brad to put the gun away.
Let off a couple of shots over the boys' heads, just to scare them.
Brad started to wind down the window. You can't! I stared at the gun in horror. What if you hit them or they fall out?
Then we'll have you all to ourselves with no interruptions,
said Brad, twisting around in his seat to get a better position in the window.
Kim?
Alice's voice shook. She gripped my hand and looked at me like I was supposed to do something. As Alice's breaths quickened, mine slowed. I took some deep breaths. I went over some self-defense moves in my mind. He was too close for me to strike the solar plexus. Poke the eyes? Twist the wrist? In what order?
Wait up,
said the driver.
Carl, I was almost... Put it away. There's something up ahead. Cop cars.
Brad dropped the pistol below window level. We all looked at the scene ahead. Carl was almost right. Cars blocked the road, but they weren't cop cars. They were military police cars.
I'll turn around.
Carl began to slow the truck.
No, we're too close. It'll be too obvious.
Brad quickly held the gun up to the back window. Making sure the boys saw it, he tapped it against my head.
You girls are going to be nice and quiet, aren't you?
He wedged the gun into the waistband of his jeans and pulled his plaid shirt loosely over it.
Why wouldn't we? You're just giving us a ride, and we're real grateful.
Alice had this way of sounding so placid and disarming. I nearly grinned, despite the situation.
And you're both 18,
added Carl. We nodded. but no one in their right mind would believe we were 18.
The safety's off,
Added Brad, holding my eyes intently as he spoke. What an asshole, I thought. Both guys sat forward a little, blocking the view so we couldn't be seen clearly from the side windows. The truck slowed down and stopped. 2 uniformed men approached.
Sorry to disturb you, sir. Can you tell us why you're out this way?
Sure, officer. We've just been over to Portland to a concert, and we're dropping some friends home.
The officer's flashlight shone around the inside of the cab. Alice peeked forward and gave the officer a dazzling smile. The officer sighed.
Out you get. You kids will be in a world of hurt when you get back to the academy. Where are the others?
2 of them are back here.
Called the other officer. Alice and I both climbed over Brad to get out of the truck. I hopped out and looked back at Alice. She leaned her hand heavily on Brad's stomach as she moved past him. Right on top of the gun. He looked like he was going to mess himself. The boys had climbed down from the back, and we gathered at the side of the road.
Thanks for the ride, boys,
said Alice, cheerfully waving. I gave them a little finger wave and a smile as they pulled away. We were bundled into a Jeep and driven back to the academy. Compared to what we'd just gotten out of, that world of hurt was going to be a walk in the park. It was after 1 o'clock when Alice and I got back into the girls' dorm. Melissa was awake, waiting for us.
Jeez, I was getting worried. How was the concert?
Alice's expression turned positively dreamy. Her eyes sparkled as she said,
He was amazing.
So, he was amazing. I hope he was worth it,
Melissa said. How did they know we had gone? I asked.
Mark and Chris piled a year's worth of clothes under their sheets. Apparently, it looked like 2 whales were in their beds. The floor monitor found they were missing just after lights out and raised the alarm. They searched the whole facility. Of course, then they found you 2 gone. I've been lying through my teeth for 3 hours. They only just gave up and let me get to bed about an hour ago.
Sorry, Lissa. I felt bad. Did they give David a hard time too? David was the last of our little gang of 6. He should have sorted out the boys' beds so they didn't look so obvious. He was usually the reliable one.
Wasn't David with you?
Lissa asked. Us? No.
They said he was gone too.
He didn't come with us. He must have had his own thing going on. I guess we'll find out tomorrow at breakfast.
Chapter 2.
We made our way down to breakfast at 7 a.m. Alice was still in a superfan semi-coma. Our close call with the rednecks didn't seem to have made much of an impression on her at all. We each grabbed a bowl of cereal and a glass of juice and sat at our usual table. The boys came in with looks of concern on their tired faces. David wasn't with them. Where is he? I asked as they approached the table. Chris twitched his shoulders. His pale skin revealed shadows under his eyes. He leaned forward and lowered his voice.
No idea. The agents grilled us for half the night. They're worried that he wasn't with us. I think they believe he could have been taken by faders.
Faders were the creatures we were at war with. Most of the world was oblivious to the existence of the monsters walking among them, looking like humans, but capable of fading to invisibility. They could be anywhere, listening to war plans, stealing secrets, murdering the innocent, and just fading into the night. We were our government's secret weapon. We had developed the ability to see the faders. When they were invisible to others, we could simply blink to alter our vision, called blinking in, and see them as a yellow mist. Here at the academy, we learned to track the faders and help the agents catch them.
Did he say anything to you girls?
Asked Mark.
Not a thing. It can't be faders. Why would it be?
Said Alice.
We've never had problems with them here. They wouldn't even know this place exists. He's probably seeing a girl from the town.
She didn't sound convinced. The agents came around the tables with little paper cups. They put one in front of each of us and watched as we swallowed the little red pill inside. The pills helped us to develop the sight for when we were finally tracking faders. Instead of moving on to the next table, the agent remained standing before us. I looked up. It was Craig. He was cool for an agent like a big brother.
This is important. Do you have any idea where he is?
We shook our heads as he continued.
We're sending out search parties. Maybe it's nothing. It could be a girl.
He echoed Alice.
See?
She nodded, as though this confirmed her theory.
The colonel wants to see you all in his office in 10.
Said Craig. I closed my eyes and sighed. I'd never even seen the commander of the nearby military base, and here we were being called to his office. We were in such trouble. I opened my eyes to see the others were obviously having similar thoughts. Craig moved to continue his rounds, but stopped and turned back.
How was the concert?
Amazing,
sighed Alice. The rest of us agreed that it had been good.
If I'd been off rotation, I'd have been there too.
He smiled, winked, and walked away. We shoveled down our breakfast and walked over to wait outside Colonel Horton's office, where we prepared for a grilling. There were 6 of us in the small office, including the colonel. It didn't matter that there weren't enough chairs. He wasn't going to invite us to sit.
Does anyone know anything about David?
He asked. No, sir, we all replied.
If you're lying...
Sir, we're not,
said Alice.
We don't know. He didn't tell us he was going out, not a word.
I've sent out a couple of teams to comb the area, and I've called in reinforcements to help with the search.
He stopped speaking and stared at us each in turn. He was deciding whether to tell us something. I could see it in his calculating face. He seemed to decide against it.
And you? What were you thinking? We're holding a national conference here, starting this afternoon. Guests and speakers are arriving, and the place is in chaos. Letters will be going home to your parents, explaining that you won't be returning home for the summer. Your punishments for this will span the rest of the year, possibly next year too. For a start, the first speaker, Tom Harvey, is going to need help setting up. You 5 will help him with anything he needs. Then, you'll help the other speakers and visitors for the rest of the weekend until they go. Your weekend no longer exists.
Sir, Lissa didn't know anything, I began. He stared at me. I faltered.
I have to leave now, but I'll be keeping tabs on you.
He pointed at the door and looked back to his work. Outside his office, we exhaled.
I don't know how we convinced ourselves the concert would be a good idea,
said Alice with a shaky voice.
We deserve this.
Chris made a face, but he didn't disagree.
I just hope David's okay.
I think something's going on. Something serious, added Mark. Did you see he was going to say something?
I mused. I wonder what it was. As we made our way over to the lecture hall, we heard singing and stopped as we tried to identify where it was coming from.
What is that terrible noise?
Asked Alice, clamping her hands over her ears.
The Year 7s are rehearsing in one of the classrooms.
Lissa shook her head.
They're performing a show for the visitors tomorrow. They were going all evening, too. It was worse. They've improved.
What a cruel thing to do to visitors,
said Alice.
Come on, Alice. Even dreamy rock stars had to start somewhere,
said Mark. Alice punched his arm. We reached the lecture hall and sat on the edge of the stage in silence.
What if it was faders?
Said Mark after a few minutes.
We didn't handle ourselves very well with those 2 thugs last night.
I'd been thinking the same. Were we even ready to confront ethereal monsters?
We've been training for years to defend ourselves, but we're trained to track down faders, not to fight humans,
said Lissa.
You can't compare last night to what we do.
What we do?
Chris sounded derisive.
None of us have even seen a fader. Honestly, sometimes I wonder if they really exist.
Oh, they exist all right.
The voice came from the doorway. A man walked in. He was old, maybe in his 30s, and wearing a jacket with patches on the elbows and corduroy pants. This was definitely our speaker. Alice whispered,
Wow, he's gorgeous.
I wrinkled my nose and whispered back, Ew, he's my dad's age. She was right, though. He looked like the guy who was going to play Superman in the new movie. Probably not as old as my dad, then. He walked down the steps and put a box of slides next to the projector.
I'm Tom. I guess you're here to help me. Who knows how to set this up?
Alice leapt to her feet.
I'll do it.
I rolled my eyes.
Have you seen a fader then?
Asked Mark.
I've seen many of them, and so will you when you're trained and out in the field.
I've heard they're thinking of getting the students out there earlier, in observational roles,
said Alice.
I hope it's true. That would be so cool.
That's right. It's called spotting. They're trialing it in Colorado now.
What does it involve?
Asked Chris. Tom took a pile of papers out of his case and passed them to me.
One on each chair, please.
He turned back to Chris.
The kids are placed in teams at malls. They blink in and use the sight, just sitting or wandering around for a couple of hours looking to spot faders.
Do they follow them?
No, that would be tracking. They just report in. Then tracker teams and agents move into the area. The kids are moved out for their own safety.
It seems stupid to have agents at all. They can't see the faders. What's the point? We should be the agents,
said Mark.
They have to keep us out of danger as much as possible. We're a valuable asset, so their number one priority is to keep us safe.
Anyway, about those malls. That's so cool. I love malls,
said Alice. I shook my head. Trust Alice to fixate on anything to do with shopping. Did you just get here? I asked Tom as I passed each seat, dropping the notes down.
No, I arrived last night, slept in a dorm room.
He raised his eyebrows and smiled.
There seems to be a lot going on.
I felt myself blush and carried on with my work.
Oh, that's mostly our fault,
said Mark as he pulled down the viewing screen.
So I hear.
Tom's face turned serious as he rubbed his jaw.
I also hear your friend is still missing.
Thinking of David, I turned my head towards the window, as though I might see him outside. I did a double take. I was staring straight at David as he stood near the window in the building opposite the lecture hall. I gasped, and my head felt light with relief. Thank God, there he is. David is back. I pointed in his direction.
Chapter 3.
We all moved to the window. Even Tom was curious. I could see that David was speaking animatedly to a group of students. After a moment, they rushed off in different directions, faces filled with terror.
What is going on over there?
Asked Chris. The hairs on the back of my neck rose, and I blinked in. When we blink in, the world turns monochrome unless there is a fader present. In horror, I saw the bright yellow mist of a fader moving towards David's building. A fader. There's a fader over there. I heard the fear in my own voice, and it frightened me even more. The others squeezed their eyes in a slow, deliberate blink. Alice turned to Tom.
What do we do?
Stay here. Faders can't harm you while they're faded, but if they materialize in the same place as you, they can tear you apart.
We nodded. We'd all heard the stories. Melissa ran past me and threw open the fire exit. Lissa, I called, but she ignored me. She ran across the grass, screaming David's name before disappearing through a door. Everything went quiet.
Where are the agents?
Asked Chris, looking out at the deserted compound.
I believe most of them left to find your friend,
said Tom. I heard the sound of a cartridge being loaded and turned around. Tom had taken a gun from his bag. Our eyes met. He nodded once. He meant to protect us. The fader had disappeared into the building that David and Lissa were in, and its trail had dissipated, so I now had no idea where it was. We just stood at the windows, our eyes darting this way and that. Mark turned back into the room and did the same. The campus had gone eerily silent. After a few minutes, the door in the opposite building burst open, and Lissa made her way back to us, fear on her face. As she got closer, I opened the fire door to let her in. "What's going on?" I called. When she was a few feet from the door, a loud crack pierced the silence, and Lissa dropped to the ground with half her face missing. I froze with my hand propping open the door, unable to pull my eyes away from the awful sight as she jerked violently a few times and lay still. Behind me, Alice screamed. As I stared at Lissa, A darkness encircled my sight until all I could see in the pinprick of vision remaining was the shattered remains of Lissa's features. I was fainting. I knew that. I just waited for it to swallow my consciousness. Someone grabbed my jacket, and I was pulled backwards just as the glass in the door shattered and its wooden frame blistered. More bullets tore into the room from the same angle, shredding most of the curtains and the presentation screen. A few chairs at the side of the room were hit, and the wall beside them. Dazed, I turned around. Tom had little cuts all over his face. "You're cut," I said, the compulsion to faint leaving me. Instead of answering me, he asked the others,
"Can any of you triage her?"
I realized then. He didn't have cuts. His face was sprayed with blood. I turned back to the body outside. The body. My friend. I was struggling to comprehend it. I lifted my hand and finally observed that a bullet had gone straight through the palm, and Tom had been showered with my blood. I looked up at him. "Sorry."
"Stay away from the windows. We don't know how many faders there are."
Mark took one last glance through the window.
I can't see any yellow anywhere.
He pulled the only unshredded curtain across and came back. We moved to the back of the room. Alice was crying. Mark wrapped my hand in the projector's dust cloth as Chris crept from cupboard to cupboard, opening and closing doors, pulling out contents and moving on. That's when the shots started back up. Only this time, they didn't stop.
Are the agents back?
Asked Chris. Tom shrugged.
"I don't know."
They must be. Why else would there be so much shooting?
Tom looked as though he was going to respond to Chris, but couldn't. We all jumped to the sounds of screams. It was the kids. They were killing the youngsters. Mark jumped to his feet.
We've got to do something.
Tom put a hand on his shoulder.
"Against all that firepower? There's nothing you can do out there but die. But we have the girls to protect in here."
Mark began to cry.
But they're only little kids.
The shots were ringing out in ones and twos now. Then silence. Then a few more.
"How well do you know this building?" "I know this room and a couple of conference rooms."
There's the kitchens at the end of the hallway, an office, and the bathrooms,"
said Alice.
"Right. With the exit open, we're sitting ducks in this room. There should be a phone in the office. Can you move?"
"Yes," I said. My head feels a little fuzzy, but my hand doesn't even hurt. I knew that in the long run, no feeling in my hand could be bad news, but at the moment, it was a mercy. We headed toward the door. Tom listened for movement on the other side. After a few moments, he quietly turned the handle and peeked into the hallway. No shots. Tom moved out with Alice first and advanced quickly to the office door. Chris and Mark helped me through the door. As Chris and I carried on to the office door, Mark turned to look back into the room as we left.
Hey,
said Mark.
I think I saw an agent moving around out there. They must be back. We're going to be okay.
A crack sounded, and he fell backwards into a conference room door directly opposite the room we'd just vacated. He started to get up, and another shot hit him. He slid to the floor. Alice screamed, and Tom's hand covered her mouth as he pulled her into the office. We followed and closed the door.
"Stay down,"
said Tom to Amy and I.
"Chris, can you lock the door?"
There's no lock.
Chris was white.
It wouldn't stop them anyway, would it?
Said Alice with an inappropriate snort before tears began to stream down her face again. Alice moved to the corner, crying, and my vision was fading once again to a single small point. This time, I passed out.
"Kim."
I awoke to find Tom tapping my cheek and the others looking at me. Did I miss a dramatic rescue? I asked.
You scared me.
Alice looked strained. Chris was now looking through the cupboards in the office. What are you looking for? I asked him.
Something useful,
he said. Any luck? I asked.
Well, I just found this.
He waved a bottle of whiskey. He took a slug and passed it to me. I don't like liquor, I said, looking at Tom.
"You should probably have one now." It might help with the pain, as Chris hasn't found any medical supplies.
Tom crawled around to the desk, reached up, and dragged the phone down to the floor. I took a slug and coughed, handing it back. "Whose office is this?" I asked. "Mrs. Avery, the secretary." Chris took back the bottle and drank again. His face looked haunted.
That's enough, Chris,
said Tom.
I need you sharp.
Who'd have thought Mrs. Avery was a secret drinker, I said, watching Chris test the heft of the bottle as a weapon.
Mark said he saw the agents. They must be back to help us,
said Alice.
They may not all be back. There was a handful left on the base,
said Tom.
He could have seen those few, and we don't know how many faders are out there.
I didn't know they did this. Is this what they do? I asked Tom.
I've never experienced a full-on fader attack. Not with weapons like this. The fact is, we don't know how many of them are out there or where they come from. This could be the start of an invasion. This could be happening at other academies.
Tom put down the telephone he'd been holding.
I can't get a line out, and there's no one picking up the switchboard line.
He thought for a moment.
I think we should move to the kitchen.
What?
Said Alice.
No.
Using the phone was a risk. I might have given away our location if there are faders near the switchboard.
Chris took a letter opener from a desk drawer, a hopeless weapon against guns. I'm sorry. I can't blink in anymore. I can hardly see, I said.
Don't worry, we're watching. I haven't seen any faders since that first one,
said Chris.
They could be sweeping the place and just not got here yet,
said Tom. A sound came from outside the door. The handle began to turn. Alice shuffled further into the corner. Chris crouched behind the door with his letter opener in one hand and the bottle in the other. Tom leveled his gun at the entrance. The door swung open and Mark fell through.
Mark!
Cried Alice.
You forgot me,
he gurgled. His mouth was bloody. He had been shot in the shoulder and the stomach. Chris dropped his weapons and lurched forward to catch his falling friend.
There's nothing we can do for him here. We have to get to the kitchen. Alice, help Kim. Chris, you and I will carry Mark.
Chris opened the door. As we left, Alice and I looked at the trail of blood Mark had made from the conference room to the office. We headed off in the opposite direction to the kitchen's double doors. Alice looked through the windows and the doors, announced it was safe, and went to open them.
The doors are locked,
said Alice in horror.
Hold in,
said Tom. And Chris shouldered Mark in the doorway of the office. Tom walked to the kitchen doors and delivered a mighty kick to them. They splintered and flew open. He stood aside for Alice and I. Alice glanced at me as we made our way into the kitchen. Yes, okay, he's a hunk, I muttered. Tom and Chris carried Mark through the door as a shot rang out from the hallway behind them. They raced quickly through. As Chris and Tom put Mark on the floor, Tom tumbled down with him.
Tom!
Cried Alice.
Tom's been shot.
It's all right. It just grazed me. Took me by surprise. See to Kim and Mark.
Tom sat straight up with his back to a row of cupboards, keeping his gun trained on the door. I looked at Mark. He had lost so much blood, his skin was gray. Alice removed the cloth from my hand. It had soaked through with blood. She wrapped it with a clean cloth. Chris tried to staunch Mark's bleeding with dish towels, but it was difficult to know where to start. Mark's breathing was ragged and falling at intervals.
You'll be okay, buddy,
said Chris.
The medics are on their way.
Liar,
whispered Mark. Alice held a cup up to me.
Drink this.
I pushed it away, assuming it was more whiskey. It's horrible.
It's water,
she said. I drank. The phone rang back in the office. Alice turned around with hope on her face, but no one moved. We knew we couldn't risk it. She slumped back down beside me.
I have to blink out,
said Chris.
It's straining my eyes.
It's okay,
said Tom.
I can carry on. Alice, you take a break too.
Alice closed her eyes and massaged her temples. Chris was back to raiding cupboards and drawers. He emptied a tray of cutlery onto the floor and picked up a cleaver.
Now this is more like it.
A small metal object had skittered across the floor towards me and I picked it up. "What's this?" I asked.
Let me see.
Said Chris, laying down the cleaver to retrieve the item I had skittered across the floor to him.
Oh, it's a fork spoon. I think it's for ice cream.
He replied, turning it over in his hand.
So, Tom,
Said Chris.
tell Mark what your talk was going to be about. He really wants to know.
A slight smile appeared on Mark's pale face.
A statistical analysis of the likelihood of an all-out Fader attack occurring in North America.
Quietly, we all laughed. Even Mark, who was barely conscious.
I'm thinking 100%.
Said Chris.
Yes, I think my analysis needs some work.
Are you married, Tom?
Asked Alice.
Jeez, Alice. Now's really not the time for flirting.
Said Mark. Alice just smiled at him, but his eyes were closed.
Yes. My wife, Vanessa, is expecting our first child. She thinks it's a boy, but I know it's a girl.
The door burst open. Tom's gun was raised in a heartbeat. It was Craig. He saw the weapon and dropped his rifle to a non-threatening position.
Craig, thank God. Are the agents back? We saw Fader. How many are there?
Asked Alice.
No, the search teams aren't back. It's a bloodbath out there. There are Faders everywhere. Have you seen David?
From a distance,
Said Alice.
but Lisa...
I know.
Craig took in the room. His eyes landed on Mark before moving on to Chris, who shook his head once. While Craig stood in the door, Tom remained with his gun ready, covering Craig's back.
I saw one in this building a few minutes ago, but he saw me and faded. I had to run for it. I didn't know if he was coming after me.
Said Craig.
I feel useless without a tracker team. Chris, can you help me? There's a weapons store in the building next to this one. I'm trying to get to it. I need someone to watch my back.
Chris made eye contact with Alice and tipped his head towards Mark.
I'll watch him.
Alice moved over and took Mark's hand. Chris got to his feet and pocketed the little metal fork spoon.
I'll be back as soon as I can, with a rocket launcher.
Craig looked him straight in the face.
Dude, if there's one there, it's yours.
Cool.
Said Chris as they moved out the door. Around 20 minutes went by, shots still occasionally ringing out. Alice looked over at Tom.
So much for blinking in. He's fallen asleep.
Her breath caught, and I knew something was wrong. She moved over to him.
He's bleeding out from his leg.
She looked at me, her eyes pleading. His belt. I pointed. She sprang into action, yanking the belt from around his waist and using it as a tourniquet around the top of his leg. She tapped his face.
Tom? Tom!
Chapter 4.
Tom? Tom!
Vanessa was standing at the sink, finishing the last pot as she washed up the dishes from dinner. I'd been standing in the doorway for a few minutes, just gazing at my beautiful wife. Yes, honey? She jumped a little. I took 2 steps and wrapped my arms around her, planting a kiss on the nape of her neck.
Remarkable timing.
She wriggled around to face me, and I kissed the tip of her nose.
Have you been standing there waiting for me to finish up the dishes?
Maybe, I admitted with the cheeky smile that always got me out of trouble.
Are you all packed?
All done. Are you sure you don't want to come? I didn't like leaving her so close to the baby coming.
I can barely move from one room to another without throwing up. The thought of traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast makes me feel sick to my stomach. I'm afraid Junior's voted, and he wants to stay put.
He? I put a hand on her swollen belly. Don't you listen to her, sweetheart. I know you're a girl.
When will you be back?
4 days. Then I can start to paint the nursery. Pink.
Blue.
No chasing down faders while I'm gone.
All I'll be chasing down is a jar of pickles.
Have you tried dipping them in ice cream?
Hey, I'm the pregnant one. Keep your weird ideas to yourself.
I'll see you in a few days. I kissed her on the lips, then a peck on the nose, and picked up my case.
Did you forget something?
She called as I reached the door. I turned back, rolled my eyes, and picked up a case of projector slides. At least half of the delegates will be disappointed that you reminded me to take these.
Tom!
Her voice sounded urgent. I reached out to hold her.
Chapter 5.
Tom's eyes snapped open.
What, honey?
He looked around confusedly. Then his eyes sharpened.
What's happened? Are you girls okay?
Yes,
Said Alice.
but you got shot through the leg and forgot to mention it.
He looked down at the belt wrapped around his thigh. He sat up, loosened it, and cried out. After a few moments, he tightened it again.
Chris not back yet?
He asked. I shook my head. Looking over at Mark, he asked.
How is he?
Still dying.
Mark wheezed. We fell back into silence again. The occasional shots shattered the silence, but I had become numb to them and no longer started at the sounds. A shot came from close by, and we looked at each other. Running feet approached the kitchen, and Tom raised his gun again. Craig burst in with blood on his shirt and a wounded arm, and his rifle hanging uselessly from his left shoulder.
Where's Chris?
Asked Alice.
He's a goddamn idiot.
He had tears in his eyes.
They were waiting at the weapons store. They aimed at me, but Chris jumped in front. It was my job to protect him, not the other way around.
He moved to Mark, whose breathing was ragged.
You hang in there, pal.
Craig went to the window and looked out. It seemed a cavalier move after we had been skulking around on the floor.
The back of this building leads to the woods where they were searching for David. I'm going to see if I can find a search party.
He turned to Tom and pointed at the gun.
Is that loaded?
Damn right it is.
Good. You look after those kids. I'll try to get back with help.
With that, he left the kitchen. We sat in silence, and I realized it was too silent. We all seemed to notice at the same time. Alice turned towards Mark.
He's gone,
she cried. The three of us sat on the kitchen floor,
I think I should hide you girls in the kitchen cupboards.
said Tom. I'm not going to die in a cupboard. I'm just not, I said,
Same here.
said Alice.
There are knives in here. I'm going out fighting.
A moment later, the kitchen window smashed and 2 shots took Alice. Blood sprayed over my face, and I knew I was going to die.
No.
Shouted Tom. He sounded like he'd had enough. He shot blindly out through the window until his gun just clicked. When the shots were returned, he dived on top of me. I felt his body jerk as bullets smashed into him. As I lay there, I knew that man was a hero. And I wondered if his little girl would ever know. A pain burst in my head, and I knew nothing more. I felt myself being carried. I opened my eyes. It was dark, and I was outside. I was in the woods. David, I tried. My voice was weak. I wasn't sure it was him. My vision was blurry.
It's okay, Kim. I've got you. You got grazed by a bullet, but you're all right.
It was David. His voice sounded choked with tears.
I'm sorry, Kim. It's all my fault. Now everyone's dead.
His voice faded as I lost consciousness again. He carried me as far as he could. Then I leaned on him as we went a little further. When we could walk no further, I awoke in a part of the woods I didn't recognize to find David curled up, distressed and crying next to me.
I'm sorry, Kim. I'm so sorry. I'm lost. I don't know how to get us back. There was so much red.
When I awoke again, I was alone.
Chapter 6.
Hilltop Tracker Academy, Oxfordshire, England. Date: today.
I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of the dorm room. The bathroom door opened, and in whirled Orla, my frizzy-haired roommate.
Hey, Jenna. You're supposed to be at a meeting this morning.
I don't want to speak to anyone. I pulled the quilt over my head. She pulled it back off me, and I sat up. I'd only known her 2 weeks, and I felt like I'd known her my whole life.
Come on,
she said in her lilting Irish accent. It's my sworn duty to get you there on time. You'll get me into trouble.
It's my sworn duty to get you there on time. You'll get me into trouble.
You are an emotional blackmailer, I said as I stumbled into the bathroom.
Well, yes, that's true, but I'm very good at it. I can cry if it will help. Will it help?
Not listening, I called as I turned on the shower. An hour later, I walked into the conference room. Helen, the counsellor, was already there, and so was Professor Abbott, the headmaster of the academy. They were sitting with a man who was unfamiliar to me.
Hello, Jenna. How are you?
Not great. Professor Abbott shifted uncomfortably at my response, but continued.
I'd like you to meet Lord Bradbury. His team oversees Fader activity investigations in Europe.
Can you tell me about your awakening? I've never heard of it happening so late.
Straight to it then, I thought. No, sorry for your loss. I'd already learned that the ability to see faders usually awakens at puberty, and at almost 16, I was an anomaly. And that was the least of what made me different. We were on holiday in Glastonbury. I felt hot and dizzy. I staggered out of the bookshop we'd been in, and the boy with green hazel eyes appeared from nowhere. Something seemed to explode in my head. Then car and house alarms started wailing, and garden furniture toppled over. They're saying I did that. I don't know. The boy just disappeared. He faded into a hazy yellow mist and floated away. I thought I was hallucinating.
I see.
Lord Bradbury nodded, then shared a quick glance with the headmaster. Then we came home. I continued, although no one had asked me to, but I was starting to feel anxious and unusually talkative. The next day, when I was out, they blew up our house. They killed my dad, and probably my cat too, and then some men came, put me in a car, drugged me, and I woke up here. The room had turned monochrome, and the light above us had gone very bright. Lord Bradbury's mobile phone, which was on the table in front of him, made a popping sound. Oh, also, gadgets keep breaking when I get upset, I added, although that was self-evident. After the meeting, Helen asked me to wait in her office.
Chapter 7.
I looked from the window of Helen's office, watching the younger kids play in the courtyard outside. I was annoyed at missing the sun. Britain pretty much had 2 seasons now, winter and rain. Today was likely going to be the only decent day of the year. Summer had fallen on this day, and I was probably about to be punished. I had resigned myself to being at Hilltop Tracker Academy. In fact, I wanted to be able to do the same as the other kids who could just blink to engage the sight which enabled them to see the invisible monsters. As I looked down, for a moment, it wasn't the children I could see out there. It was the military policeman who came to tell me that Dad had died in a gas explosion. Then I remembered Professor Abbott giving me a different, unbelievable version of events.
Jenna?
The counsellor was standing right next to me. My vision was blurred. I blinked away a tear and felt it roll down my face. Sorry, miles away. I turned back into the room, which made her move the arm she had placed around my shoulder.
Let's sit.
I'm sorry about that guy's phone. I sat down, sinking into the comfortable armchair. I didn't mean to lose my temper. Even at this strange academy, they didn't seem to understand what was happening to me.
You have to learn to control your emotions. Someone could get hurt. I know you don't want that.
I've been trying to control it. The others say that their vision goes monochrome when they blink in. That's what happens to me sometimes when I get upset, so it must be connected to the sight. I've been trying to blink in when I'm not upset, but it never works. I close my eyes, telling my brain what I want from it. I open them, and everything's just the same. I looked at my hands, which I had balled into fists on my knees. I relaxed them.
It can take months to control. Don't worry, it will come.
I'll apologize to him.
I haven't asked you here to punish you. I have something I want you to see.
Helen picked up a USB stick.
Don't worry, it's not long, but it's an important part of our history. It very often gives people a sense of perspective when they don't understand just how big all this is.
Is there any popcorn?
I don't imagine you're going to have much of an appetite when you watch this. Do you remember me telling you that your grandfather died in a fader attack? This film is a documentary about that attack.
I had no words. Death seemed to surround me these days. She positioned her laptop, plugged in the USB, and pressed play. The video was grainy and seemed to show a lecture hall. In the middle of the room stood a table on which rested a machine. From it came an eerie, flashing light. A wheel jerked around, casting strange lights about the room. What's that?
It's a slide projector. It's what was used long before running presentations from laptops and USB sticks.
The camera moved around the room, and sure enough, there was a torn screen with charts and words flashing by, but I couldn't make them out. The whole thing seemed strange, and I felt a foreboding, knowing I wasn't going to like what I saw. The scene changed several times. Classrooms, a cafeteria, a playground, all empty, all peppered with holes. Then the camera panned along a row of long black shapes in what looked like a school gym. It took me a few moments to realize what they were. Body bags. Rows of them. The first few were quite long, adult length. Then they were chillingly short. The voiceover began.
A fine, warm day in July 1978 at the Tracker Academy in Washington State.
An hour later, I had not spoken a single word during the video. The voiceover concluded.
26 students were killed that day. 8 guards, 5 teachers, and 3 visitors. The number of dead would have been higher, but many students and staff members had left on buses that morning for summer vacation, and 70 guests due to attend a conference had returned to their hotel after reports of unusual activity at the academy.
This academy closed and never reopened. Since then, every academy has been on the grounds of a fully functioning military base. The only person to survive was an agent who had been saved when a student, Chris Morris, leapt in the path of a bullet to protect him. When the next academy opened in Washington State, it was called Christopher Morris Academy.
I watched the names of the dead scroll up the screen. Tom Harvey, my grandfather, was, of course, among them. Thank you, Helen.
Take care, Jenna.
Back outside, I turned my face to the sun and felt its warmth, but the chill of what I had just learned would not leave me for some time. I knew that soon after the events in Washington State, my grandmother, Vanessa, had given birth to my mum, and a year later, she had gone missing in New York. It was believed that faders had been responsible. I felt bitterly resentful of the losses my family and I had endured and continued to endure at the hands of the faders. I would learn to control my anger and use the sight. I would find the faders, and I would make them pay.
The end. Unseen is a prequel to the Fader series. Get your copy to follow Jenna's adventures, available in ebook, paperback, and audio.
The end. We hope you've enjoyed this production of
Unseen, a Fader's prequel, by E.G. Bateman, made with Spoken.